Hi, I'm Louie, Head of Acquisitions at MyArtBroker. Whether you're a first-time buyer or a seasoned collector of Keith Haring, here are a few things that you might want to bear in mind when purchasing a piece. Keith Haring was the architect of street art. He was an important figure of his time, born in 1958, who passed away prematurely at the age of 31 in 1990. Keith Haring firmly believed that art was for the people. And for that reason, he actually started by displaying his artwork in the streets of New York City as graffiti. And slowly but surely, his artwork penetrated the walls of galleries and other artistic institutions. Keith Haring was good friends with a number of other iconic artists from his time, such as Andy Warhol and Jean-Michel Basquiat, and they collaborated together and they left us with a wealth of absolutely incredible artwork that can be acquired by you today. Keith Haring prints absolutely are a good investment. To share facts and figures with you, his print market has actually increased in value by almost 150% between 2017 and 2023. And actually the average sale price of his prints have increased by almost 200%. So that gives you an indication of how well his market is doing. It can be a little bit tricky to know where to start when purchasing your first Keith Haring artwork. Now, of course, there are prints and there are originals. Now, of course, originals are very much prized. Keith Haring created a number of paintings, but also a number of subway drawings, which are artworks made from chalk that have been taken from the subways of New York and that are now sold commercially in galleries and so forth. But there are also a number of prints that have been made from these originals. So there are a number of different types of prints. Keith Haring experimented with lithography, screen printing, and a number of other techniques. So a good place to start is to figure out what your budget is and what it is exactly that you wish to acquire from his oeuvre. So if you have a budget, let's say, below the £5,000 mark, then you might want to start looking at some of his pieces, such as his poster designs for the Montreux Jazz Festival. If you have a larger budget, then you might be interested in acquiring some of his more iconic pieces, for example, the pop shop artworks. Or if you have a significantly more elevated budget, then, obviously his most prized prints include prints featuring iconic subject matters, such as his Andy Mouse prints, especially desirable if you can get your hands on a print that was both signed by Keith Haring and Andy Warhol.
If you talk about Keith Haring's prints, they're quite good because he was a graphic artist. There was a graphic quality. They were illustrations. So it stands to reason these things are going to reproduce really well. I would say especially the silk screens. They're crisp, they're beautiful, they feel like Keith. As a collector, if you can afford it, the ones to buy are, well, of course, the Fertility series. I mean, these things were his first serious attempt at printmaking. These things are killer. They have scale, they're pop, the colors are beautiful, the vibe is right on these things. I would say also what they call the Andy Mouse prints. These illustrate Andy Warhol. He's holding dollar bills and he has his fright wig on. And so it's sort of a cross between Warhol and Mickey Mouse, I would say. But they're great. I mean, they captured Keith's sense of humor, and he definitely had a sense of humor, which was part of the joy of his work. So, there are other prints that could be bought for a lot less money that are quite good as well. Keith Haring prints are probably the most affordable way to go if you want to start collecting his work. And there are things in, I think, every price range. So that's kind of cool. It fits with his philosophy of art for everyone.
Keith Haring has produced a number of portfolios throughout his career. Many of them today are iconic. There is obviously the Lucky Strike portfolio, there are the Icons portfolio, and there's the Andy Mouse portfolio. One of his most desirable complete set of prints is obviously Andy Mouse. That is a combination of Mickey Mouse and Andy Warhol that Keith Haring knew and was good friends with, and they actually both conjointly collaborated on that series, and some pieces are even signed and dated by both artists. Keith Haring's Pop Shop series are also very much in demand. he actually created those pieces to be sold in his original pop shop. So the pop shop was actually a physical location that opened in 1986 in New York City. And it was a bit of an immersive experience as Keith Haring actually hand painted all the walls and the ceiling himself. And the idea behind that shop was to have a space where his artwork, as well as the artwork of his friends and contemporaries, such as Jean-Michel Basquiat, would be sold at an affordable price point. So, fans and collectors could purchase both artwork, prints, but also paraphernalia, such as t-shirts, at very affordable price points. Keith Haring actually once said, "The use of commercial projects has enabled me to reach millions of people whom I would not have reached by remaining an unknown artist. I assumed, after all, that the point of making art was to communicate and contribute to culture." That's, in my opinion, a very relevant statement from Keith Haring, because Keith Haring truly did believe that art was for the people, and he did everything that he could to make it as accessible as possible to everyone. He was on a mission to democratize artwork and to make it accessible to all. And I truly believe that he has succeeded in his mission. And today, a number of other institutions are continuing that work. Hence the reason why we see his iconography being displayed on t-shirts and other items of clothing sold by major brands such as Uniqlo and so forth. Keith Haring is a great place to start if you want to start collecting American pop for a number of reasons. First of all, there is a wide array of different types of prints that have been produced throughout Keith Haring's lifetime, and even published posthumously, actually. And all of these prints can be purchased at various price points. So I think that the first step is to determine what your budget is, and once you've secured a certain budget, to determine what it is exactly that you want to acquire from his oeuvre. So a good place to start is to look at his Montreux Jazz Festival posters, and then maybe to start looking at other more iconic pieces, such as his Pop Shop series, and then to maybe steadily work your way towards his complete sets, such as the Andy Mouse set.
The forgeries with Haring prints, what you have to basically look out for, are people that created prints that were based on his prints. In other words, it wasn't hard to reproduce a Keith Haring print. If you wanted to do a silk screen of one of them and create your own edition, you would pretty much buy an original and then look at it and examine how it was done. But from what I can see and what I've looked at, people just reproduce original prints, but they mess up because they may not use the right paper, for instance. And there's certainly, if they are signed, you can tell these are not Keith's signatures on them. And they get the numbering wrong. It's amazing how sloppy a lot of these things are. There's certainly a lot of posters out there. Keith did some beautiful posters. People can mess with those. But they skirt that line between, some of them were done as silk screens. Some of them are very handsome. Keith signed some of them, and they do have value. They're pretty neat, and they have scale to them, a lot of them. I think it's fine to buy these things as long as you know what it is you're buying. And again, we get into this thing, which I always talk about. Know who you're buying from. Deal with credible people. That's all there is to it. So I would say Keith Haring falls into that category where you can buy a print, you can buy a high-end poster, you can buy a drawing, and you're going to have a good experience living with the work. You're going to walk into your room and go, got a Keith Haring here. This feels good. So that's worth doing.
Condition is key when acquiring a Keith Haring artwork. Condition is going to determine the value of the artwork and whether you can actually sell it or pass it on to your children, friends, family, once you no longer want to display it in your home. So a few things to bear in mind are, has the print been kept rolled up or flat? I certainly hope that it's been kept flat. Has it been framed? And if so, has it been framed behind UV protective glass or behind a piece of plexiglass? You might also want to have a look at the overall quality of the paper. Has it yellowed? Has it undulated a little bit? Is there any foxing, or worse, maybe even signs of molding? Just, keep an eye out on those things. It's always a good idea to bring the piece to a conservator who will be able to professionally deframe it for you and to assess the condition of the piece prior to either selling it or acquiring it. There are a number of places where you can buy a Keith Haring print. You can obviously purchase a print at auction. You can purchase one of his prints in an art gallery. You can buy one online, or you can go through a broker, which means that a private sale will be conducted. So if you wish to buy a Keith Haring print via auction, a few things to bear in mind are the price points that will be indicated to you in the auction catalog will be arranged. There will be a low estimate and a high estimate. And once you've placed your bid and that you've secured your lot and that you actually acquire the piece for a certain amounts, you will have to pay for a buyer's premium on top of that. Generally, the buyer's premium is about 25% on top of the hammer price. Of course, you can also turn towards a gallery, a reputable gallery that is known for selling Keith Haring prints. Something to bear in mind is that the price point of that specific print might not be indicative of where that artwork sits in the market. Of course, galleries determine price points based off of their client base and what they think that they can sell the print for. After all, it's a free market, so that's fair enough. You can also purchase an artwork online, but there are a few things to bear in mind before purchasing an artwork online. Obviously, make sure that the artwork comes with paperwork, meaning a certificate of authenticity, with a full provenance. One thing to bear in mind is there are a lot of scammers online, so if a deal seems too good to be true, walk away from it. Believe me, it's not worth it. You could end up with a fake Keith Haring on your hands, and nobody wants that. And finally, you can also purchase a Keith Haring print via an art broker, for example, via an online brokerage platform. So what that means is a private sale will be conducted. So what that means is a broker will find a Keith Haring collector who wishes to sell their artwork, and once you've registered your interest for a specific artwork, then they will source that piece for you and get the best deal possible for you for that specific piece. Keith Haring was the architect of street art, and his artwork has never been in such high demand as today. Whether you're a first-time buyer or a seasoned collector, there is something in his oeuvre for you at any price point. Why not buy something today?